Good morning, Scott. Welcome.
Morning.
We're on the distribution day of FundForum's Asia Summit 2013, and I gather you're going to be presenting or part of a panel discussion tomorrow. But before we talk about that, would you like to very briefly tell us about what you do at BBH?
Sure, Shiv. I am in charge of business development and relationship management for BBH for Asia.
Right.
So that includes our activities here in Hong Kong, across the region, also in China and in Japan, where we support our global clients as they look to commercialize their product offering and be active in the region here in Asia,
Right.
but also to capture opportunities with new clients joining the firm.
Excellent. We'll come to talking about product and specifically cross-border product in a minute, but I want to just very briefly ask you about your panel tomorrow. What is the topic and what are you hoping to be talking about with your panelists?
Okay, well, I have a great panel tomorrow of senior executives in the fund management space, some of them clients of BBH, actually nearly all of them. And we're tackling the question of product optimization, particularly in a risk-averse environment. So looking at whether fund managers are rolling out new products, looking at product innovation,
Yes.
or as one of the points that you've actually raised is product rejuvenation. I know there was quite a discussion of, is it time to bring back some products that have been used 3 or 4 years ago that might have fallen out of favor a little bit, but are a good fit for the current environment.
And what's your thought on that point?
I think there's still a lot of space for innovation.
Yes.
So the fund managers, as I don't want to, this is a spoiler, I don't want to spoil the panel tomorrow.
Yes, don't give too much away, but
there's quite a lot of space for innovation, particularly with regards to currency. There'll be quite a lot of discussion tomorrow as well about optimal strategies for inflation, which is a hot topic. And over the past couple of years, we've seen a strong demand for capturing additional yield, that investors are looking for yield, particularly in a low interest environment. So all of those will be addressed,
Right.
and more tomorrow.
Excellent. I want to come to this point on product. It's a very, very relevant topic, and I'm going to pick it up from the point of view of the number of funds that we have, not just in Europe, but globally. If you look at the number of funds that are registered for sale across Asia, they're substantial given the size of assets under management. What is your sense about the need? Where do you draw the line between the need for more funds in terms of the number of products versus the point you were making a minute ago about products that might have fallen out of favor coming back in? Does that mean new funds or are these existing funds?
Well, I think, if you look at the numbers of fund approvals, there is a continual evolution depending on where the market appetite is. So fund managers over the past couple of years, since the crisis years, have looked to either consolidate or constantly have an optimal product range in the market where there's demand.
Yep.
I think where we're seeing development is definitely in the areas of this discussion of local versus offshore or global funds. So particularly with regards to global fund managers who have heretofore looked at leveraging a flagship fund range and selling it into multiple markets in Asia. Singapore, Hong Kong, and Taiwan being the obvious choices.
The main ones,
As we see now developments, very exciting developments in an evolving landscape in Greater China for either cross-border investment or cross-border distribution, being the key themes, I think, of how a fund manager would look at their structure if they were coming into the market as a new entrant.
Right. Perfect point to ask you about the share of cross-border funds in Asia. Now, as you may know and you will know from your previous experience, the share of cross-border in Europe is at about 45%. So that's the share of cross-border penetration in the European marketplace. It's significantly lower in Asia. It's about 15% in Asia if you look at our data. Point you just made about China, the role that Hong Kong is likely to play, Singapore and Taiwan being the other markets. But fundamentally, Asia is still very much a local onshore business. So given what I've just said, what is your sense of where the cross-border market is likely to grow to or likely to rise to in this part of the world?
Well, it depends very much on the market we're talking about. Singapore, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, as I've mentioned, have been fairly open with regards to cross-border funds, and the UCITS brand is extremely important in those three markets. We've seen those markets really turning on or off the tap, basically, depending on outflows and fund approvals. And I think what we're seeing now is a move towards developing local funds industry. So the
Yep.
particular with particular focus on the Hong Kong market, the opportunity here is a Hong Kong vehicle that may in the future be available to be sold into China and maybe into Taiwan. So, and the obvious question there is then what happens to the offshore funds in that regard? And I think, you know, for the foreseeable future, there will be a coexistence. Both are important. And it really depends on what the fund manager is looking to achieve. So a single market strategy could be a Hong Kong fund, regulated here locally, administered here locally with some substance, as the regulators are telling us, and supported locally by administrators like BBH.
That was going to be my next question. How does that fit in with your strategy as an organization? Are you well positioned to deal with that, you and others in your segment of the industry?
Absolutely, absolutely. BBH has supported offshore and onshore funds for a very long time, and we have long established relationships with major players in this space. We look to be able to support them wherever they are looking to establishing new fund structures, and Hong Kong is the obvious next choice.
Indeed.
And we're in a number of discussions as our clients and prospects establish their ambitions and strategies for the region.
Excellent, Scott. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.